Well. Is there dissension already in the Oklahoma-Texas move to the SEC? My sources, and a lot of other sources and rumblings, are saying that they might be having second thoughts about coming to the SEC. Texas, in particular, may nix the whole deal, and they may have a surprise or two if they stay in the Big 12. Let's talk about it. How's it going out today, guys and gals in sporting land? This is JPC. I'm the OCF. That's the Outlaw of College Football. And man, expansion talks always seem to heat up this time of year because you got nothing else to talk about. Now, last year about this time, I was doing J&J Outlaw Sports, and I actually did a podcast on why Oklahoma did not need Oklahoma State and that they needed to go ahead and make their way to the SEC. And this is before anything came out about expansion. That's because I'm a psychic when it comes to college football. You know, I get epiphanies from the college football gods. That's right. All kidding aside, though, there's one thing I need to tell y'all that's for sure a factual thing, and it's not rumblings, it's not rumors, and that is you are the home of the common Joe and the common Sally, and the know even more so than all those media talking heads. That's right. Now, back to the subject at hand. Been hearing a lot of rumblings out there, a lot of rumors going around that possibly Texas is having second thoughts about coming to the SEC, as well as maybe Oklahoma, but more Texas. Texas doesn't come to the SEC, does it affect Oklahoma's status of coming to the SEC at that point? That is the question. I think that if Texas decided to renege and back out of the deal, I think Oklahoma would give thought to possibly going back to the Big 12 with Texas. And Texas's thinking here, from what I'm understanding, is that they could possibly get some of the band back together. Go out, get Nebraska. Take their money that they get by coming back to the Big 12, because Texas and Oklahoma have big money. We all know that. Get a great TV deal with Texas and Oklahoma coming back to the Big 12 and offer Nebraska just enough money to make up for what they're making in the Big 10. Now, you may not be able to give Nebraska exactly what they're making in the Big 10, but if you get within the $5 to $10 million range, close, $5 to $10 million sound like a lot to me and you. But $5 to $10 million in the grand scheme of things and keeping your fan base happy in the long term and the big picture is just a drop in the bucket when these conferences are making billions upon billions of dollars. So it's not as far-fetched as you think. Because I know the big thing that people come in, the naysayers, the ones that want to just go ahead and try to shut you down and be like, oh, no, they make too much money in the Big Ten. They'd make too much money in the SEC. But Nebraska, I can tell by their fan base, they are not happy with being in the Big Ten. And it's not just because they're not winning. It's because it's not really their natural habitat. It's not their natural rivalries. You lost the Nebraska-Oklahoma rivalry, just like we did with the Texas A&M rivalry. That rivalry will probably never come back to pass if Texas goes back on what they said and reneges on their deal with the SEC. Now, Oklahoma is a wild card in all this. If Oklahoma says, well, you know what, Texas, we're tired of holding your hand. We're tired of acquiescing to every move you make. We're going to the SEC. You can do whatever the hell you want to do. And if that happens at that point, well, then Oklahoma's going to need a partner to come in with them. Rumor has it, Kansas is unhappy. That sort of set the Big 12 back in basketball. But it would help the SEC out in their basketball prowess. Now, I doubt that move would happen, especially if Texas or Oklahoma went back to the Big 12 and reneged on their deal with the SEC. If Oklahoma decided to stay course, though, I think, in my opinion, there's been talks about getting a footprint in North Carolina or Virginia. What would likely happen is if Texas backs out and Oklahoma decides to stay course, Oklahoma would probably come in with either Virginia Tech or NC State because of the footprint that they would provide on the East Coast for the SEC. But both of them go back to the Big 12. It could mean a lot for the Big 12 and the Pac 12. These two conferences have thought about being bed partners in the past, and they just never have done it. I think they need to pull the trigger on that. I think the Pac 12 needs to quit being the Big Ten's Robin to their Batman. And I think the same thing is for the Big 12 slightly with the SEC. You know, they've sort of been kowtowing with the SEC and sort of buddying up with them a little bit because of all that stupid sissy-ass alliance stuff that they were talking about with the ACC, Big Ten, and Pac-12. We all know that was loosely knitted. But if the Pac-12 and the Big 12 are wise, they'll put their differences aside, if they have any, and get together and become the dominant force west of the Mississippi. Now, they may not be able to be the dominant force in the East, but they would have the West completely tied up. The Big Ten nor the SEC or the ACC have any teams of significance on the West Coast. They'd have the West Coast tied up. The Big 12 is already adding teams from the East with UCF and Cincinnati. So if they were to get Texas and Oklahoma to stay and then take the best of the Pac-12 and make a conference called, I don't know, the Big West or the Continental Conference or something like that, because they'd be coast to coast. You'd have teams from Central Florida to Southern Cal. You take Texas and Oklahoma, put them back in the Big 12, and then go out there, get USC, UCLA, Oregon, Arizona, Arizona State, and Washington. And the other teams, I guess, could just basically filter down to the Mountain West at that point. So, and we're talking about getting the band back together. People think about Colorado as well, but I don't know if Colorado would be in the mix. Now, you could just make it simple. Texas and Oklahoma coming back. They grab Nebraska, bring them back, and then they just merge completely with the Pac-12 and have one mega super conference and just have a stranglehold on the markets out west. And that's all I got to say about that. That's the rumblings I'm hearing, though. You guys and gals, tell me what you think about the situation. If you got some more scenarios, some more dominoes that you think may fall in this scenario, drop in the comment section. And with that, I'm going to get off of here. Like, share, comment, and subscribe to this channel. And as always, KMCA to all the other teams.